and welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast on this beautiful Wednesday, although it's pissing rain here, so it's not that nice. But anywho, on this beautiful Wednesday night, January the 4th, we have a great podcast for you guys. We're going to recap the AFC West last week, and we are also going to touch on the basically the division rivals that are coming up this weekend, which can be really interesting to kind of see. Some of them matter, some of them don't, and we will just go from there and take all of your questions when and where you have them. We obviously have some interesting NFL news, kind of like Monday night in terms of what happened there, and we also have some interesting, I think, discussion points with regards to just officiating and whatnot in general. Captain, how are you doing today?
I, sir, am always fine and festive with the fine crew we have here. All me shipmates here, even though their teams suck. Even if they're good, I'm going to say they suck, because that's just the way it is, But how are we doing tonight? Looking good.
Fantastic. And Alex, how are you doing this evening? And for those of you who don't know, just to recap on Captain. Captain has a YouTube channel. You can find the link to that down below. Go ahead and open that up and click subscribe if you have not done so already. I am RichiRichEh with the MHRT Network. Again, link down below in the description of this video. Please go ahead and subscribe to that channel. Alex is from Arrowhead Addict. You can find his contributions there for his Kansas City Chiefs. Alex, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing well. Coming off a Chiefs win. Might not be the prettiest of wins, but hey, 15 straight against the Broncos.
Oh, we have stuff to talk about that, let me tell you.
Well, I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
But either way, it's from the events from Monday, a bit of a somber and unfortunate sort of waters we're in right now in the NFL, but I'm ready for Week 18 and the playoffs.
Yep, and I have to certainly call offensive pass interference on that particular shutout there, Alex.
Yeah.
I just think that if I'm going to go egregious, I may as well go all the way there, and we'll leave that at that until later on in the show. And Coach has his YouTube channel down below, again in the description. Lockdown Defense Podcast. Yesterday, again, Coach and Coach Kurt as well. We're on there. I had my fun with Kurt, as I always do in the comment section. He and I are great. I love the banter back and forth. And Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Much like Alex said, it's somber week, sobering week. It's the melancholy, if you will, regarding what happened to Damar Hamlin. But outside of that, Chargers are doing well. Offense was clicking last week. Had a nice, complete, solid game leading into the last week of the season and getting ready for the playoffs. So I'm definitely happy with where the Chargers are progressing. Got Joey Bosa some snaps last week. So, yeah, it's definitely a good time in LA. So we're doing pretty good for ourselves.
Fantastic. So jumping right into things, Captain, we're just going to go right into the Raiders game. Obviously, the Raiders had some interesting announcements kind of ahead of the last week's game there with regards to Derek Carr not playing, Stidham starting, that sort of thing. To be quite honest, the Raiders kind of YouTube sphere and kind of the sports world there has been kind of going quite crazy on a lot of different things, although I think that there's a lot of valid takes and valid comments that are being made, and I think that we'll kind of wait and see where things end up. That being said, how'd the game go? What did you like? What didn't you like? And what differences did you see that game versus others?
Okay, first off, I'll ask, are you the one that's breaking up or is it me?
Probably you.
I think I'm fine because if I'm going to be honest, the other three guys for me, their video are very clear.
And your video is pretty grained.
Yeah, you're on tape delay.
Okay. Well, I will take care of this right now. That's why I asked.
I'm going to say the Roadrunner for you may not be running.
Get rid of a bunch of
Close your ass.
My upgrade. Now, you know what? Don't make me cuss on your show, man. Don't make me cuss on your show. We don't want that because we're trying to keep this clean for the kids. Okay.
Oh, so you did hear what he said.
Yo, shoot. I have. Oh, no, why is it? Okay, no, I don't need that. I'm trying to get rid of stuff I don't need. Okay.
Close the hub next video.
Yeah.
Tried unplugging it and plugging it back in.
Yeah. No. The porn. No. The porn. I bookmarked the sites. Okay, come on. I'm not that dumb. If I'm gonna get some good porn, you got to bookmark. Is that better?
It's
Yes.
better than it was.
You understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Is it better?
Well, your internet connection being better and the words and us understanding the words that you're saying are two very different things.
Your video is better.
Well,
Your beard
I got rid of a bunch of the. What? Some is the free. Of course, it's free.
Someone's got a bunch of who's a whatsies on
sites, man.
on my computer.
Who's the whatsies?
Yeah, what are you on?
Why would you pay for porn? Why would you? RedTube. Say it with me, people. RedTube.com. That's all I'm saying. You asked.
Is that a new sponsor?
RedTube.com. Actually, I should try to get them to sponsor me, man. That would be great, man. But anyway, you know what? I've lost point. And somebody said, "Let's have a clean show tonight." I said, "With me."
Right.
What did you ask, Richie? Because
the football game. We're not talking about.
No, Captain, this is an AFC West football podcast.
The Raiders.
You're representing your Las Vegas Raiders.
Take your red tube cap off.
Okay, what I liked about it, and we'll go about Derek Carr question. And I know that Mike Sarah was in here, and he is a big, and there are still questions. I typed in your issues, and the internet says you might have some network kind of. I might have some network issues.
Yeah, I think you
okay. Yeah. Jacob, I appreciate you looking out for me, Jacob, but it's like I do get porn scrubs, so it's not good. Back to the football these messages. Thank you there, Ruben. I would like to say that the issue that everybody's talking about, I know that we got my man I forgot his name. I almost said the word. Mike Sarah's in the house, and he's saying about, hey, I'm going to say this. 365 for Stidham against the number one defense in the NFL. And had he not been pushed back on the lap that he threw, because it was a great play by a Bosa, not a Charger Bosa, but his brother, who pushed back Holt Miller into the quarterback, who ended up throwing that duck. It was a touchdown to Adams. I know Mike Sarah said he was double covered. True, but he still beat the two guys that were covering him. It would have been a touchdown. It would have been a Raiders win in overtime. It would have been a fantastic win. Again, against the number one defense in the NFL, Raiders put up 34 points. Awesome.
I will say
it was kind of sad to see.
You need to call that out. You need to call that out more, because that should be your biggest takeaway. Is the 49ers have had one of the better defenses in the entire NFL, and you guys put up one heck of a stack of points on them. So that should be commended.
Right. And the other thing as well is that people were, and I even, to a point, I even said that Josh McDaniels to have better play calling. I think it was a matter of he had better play calling, and the rapport that he had with Stidham, who obviously knows this offense for at least 3 or 4 years in his time in New England, which is why they traded for him. He was running through the plays better. The progressions were better. And, oh, by the way, he actually ran out of sacks. Okay. And he was running around avoiding sacks. There was a few sacks that the Niners had, but he ran out of sacks and he made plays. And they were saying that, well, what would Carr would have done? Carr would have had his butt in a sling because of all of the different coverages that they had. And actually, I agree with that. And I was actually going to get that. The play calling worked, but I also think that maybe was holding back a little bit this year.
A little?
When we can't prove it.
I think it's pretty apparent.
Well, but here's the thing: you can't prove it. Bottom line is that Stidham, with that performance, and we'll talk to my wait, he's over there. See, hey, I pointed to him without screwing up. Okay, we'll talk with this guy as well. If he puts a back-to-back good performance against a staunch Chiefs defense, then basically write his ticket next year for staying with the Raiders. I think he's at $1 million per year. He's a free agent. Okay. And if he does have an excellent game against the Chiefs, I know that Spags will be able to game plan for him. And that'll be a little bit of a difference, to see what the Chiefs have as far as the game planning. But I think that Stidham with 2 back-to-back performances, that would be, a fantastic performance against the Niners, minus and that wasn't his fault. And what remains to be seen this week is, he can actually say, hey, I can be that guy. I can be that starting quarterback in your system. And which leads me to a couple other things, okay? I did get a chance to talk personally with Josh Jacobs signing, okay? Jeff Commander will give it at least. Yeah, right. And that's what I said. And thank you there, Lockdown Podcast, my shipmate down here. Great comments by that guy. But I spoke to Josh on the signing. I had him sign a mini helmet. And and I got a glove. Actually, Hollywood got a glove, 2 gloves, and I got one half of the pair that Josh Jacobs gave out because he was looking for me. Saw Hollywood, figured we were the same hairy dude, on TV, but he ended up getting, because he was in the front row. I was a couple rows behind him. Anyway, Josh Jacobs wants to be a Raider. I know that it's not just the fact that he has a tat. He wants to be a Raider. I got that from a personal family friend of his I had a chance to talk to in the Dallas-Fort Worth airport. Okay. He wants to be a Raider. He thought he was being dissed by Josh McDaniels. And that's why this year he has done everything in his power to prove what he can do. He is the rushing leader, and, pending something, okay, I'm going to say it, he will be the rushing leader this year. Word 2. People were saying with Carr gone, Adam, thanks for playing, Johnny. We got some wonderful parting gifts for you. That is wrong, okay? Adams is on record saying that, yes, he came over to the Raiders to play with his buddy, but he came over to Vegas for a couple different reasons, being at home, being the fact that he's a lifelong Raiders fan, that the family environment in Vegas is there. So there's personal reasons along with being a lifelong Raiders fan, which is why he wanted to play for him. Adams will be here next year, okay? He's not going to opt out. He's not going to want to get, trade me because I don't want to be here. My boy's gone. He is a professional, as I thought he would be. So if you bring back Jacobs at a decent amount, if you know you're not going to have any problems with Adams, and if that quarterback, which is why I'm going to say a dirty word, I'm going to swear. Tom Brady. Don't bring in Tom Brady. You don't need a 44, 45, 46. I don't even know how old he is. Quarterback to run your team. Okay, Mike Sarah, okay, whatever. Mike Sarah, if Josh is signed at a good price and he wants to be a Raider, he will be a Raider. I don't know why you said he's as good. But
I don't think they're going to sign him back.
Quarterback. Well, like I said, because if they don't sign him back, then that guy will be picking him up. It's going to be Marcus Allen version 2. Leaves the Raiders and goes to Kansas City because he's from Tulsa. It's like a quick, hour ride. maybe hour and a half, maybe from Tulsa to Kansas City. Yeah, he'll be locally, and he will sign with the Chiefs. It'll be his way of I want to be a Raider, but you guys didn't think enough of it. I will go to Kansas City. If the Raiders make him a good offer, he will stay. That remains to be seen. Point being as well is that if we beat Kansas City, and I know I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I firmly believe that the way that the Raiders played as a team, they came out inspired. Waller played an excellent game. So did Moreau. So did Renfro. The entire team, 4 quarters of football plus that interception. They played full 4 quarters of football. And that was great to be. And yours truly will be front row because like I said, I upgraded seats today because I wanted to be in the front row to make sure that I see firsthand the game on Sunday. I went from my row 5 to row 1, which is actually row 2, but it's whatever. But front row with my boy Hollywood, we're going to be side by side watching the game. And if we don't get TV time, then somebody needs to check with the producers because they're effed up. Just saying. Just saying. Long-winded. Anything else you want to know, Richie? I have a firm grasp with the fact that I think the Raiders are going to come out play inspired. And if they don't screw up and let the officials screw up like they did in Kansas City, which basically kind of set the tone for the game being taken away from them. Remember, they were up 17-0 in gangbusters, and a bunch of other positive busters, not busters. You take that, you put that enthusiasm at the last home game in Vegas this year, see good things happening. And I said, I'm not poo-pooing Kansas City. I'm not poo-pooing Kansas City because we're also going to obviously talk about the events on Monday and how that affects Kansas City as well. I'm sure that Alex will be doing a little bit of that as well. Anything else I can talk to you about?
No, I think that covers most of the things. I think from the Vegas game there, and I do want to move down to Coach though to bring up his Chargers team and their game there last week.
The Battle of LA.
The Battle of LA.
The Battle of LA.
Battle of Los Angeles.
It's one of the only times I think that's the only time in NFL history where it's basically dual home games.
Yeah.
Right?
No, Giants and Jets, dude.
Yeah, Giants and Jets.
Yeah.
Yep, my life, yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
Those are the only 2, I believe, though, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Coach, over to you. So, Coach, over to you. I'm very interested to see, to hear kind of your take on the game, how it went, breakdown, and also how your game compared versus the Rams to kind of how the Rams played against the Broncos.
Well, it was like night and day.
Yeah.
To say the least, it was like night and day.
Mayfield came back.
Right. Yeah, it came into normal. Yeah. And I feel like that what made me kind of nervous for the game because it was like, they were playing with house money. They had nothing to lose. They were, 3 sheets to the wind. It didn't matter. So we're just gonna go out here and sling in and see what happens. And that's kind of feel like they just was footloose and carefree when they played the Broncos. And it was 51 points was the result. But I also feel like that was the breaking point for y'all is that they just had enough of hacking. It was like, look, just get this guy out of here. We're just gonna play lousy. And hopefully that'll trigger the front office to pull the trigger, and then we can move on, right? So I feel like it was back down to earth for them. Again, it was a home away from home game for them, home for us. We got to be in the home locker rooms. The Rams even had to sleep in a different hotel than they normally do, so that was funny. But overall in the game itself, I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be a game where we couldn't, if we took care of business, we would be in trouble. However, I felt like, again, what version of Baker Mayfield were we going to get? That was the only thing that was a question for me in a sense. So clearly we got the normal version, not the souped up, jacked up version they played against the Broncos. You know, or actually
progressive version.
played against the Raiders in that fourth quarter. You know, that guy. That guy. So we got a normal version, and it was nip and tuck for the first quarter and a half. We went down and scored. They scored. They were running the ball pretty well. Cam Akers actually had 100 yards in the first half.
He is one heck of a running back.
And I was surprised that they were at odds with him at some point during the season.
Wanted to
nobody wanted to trade for him. What happened to Cap? You have a
probably rebooting the system. Thank God.
Yeah, all those pop-ups was getting so.
The red tube finally just took over.
There you go. So, overall, I think that particular aspect of it was a point that we needed to address when it comes down to not letting them get ahead of steam or get any confidence. So as long as we could ward that off, because like I said, they were running the ball well early. But what I did notice is that, lo and behold, we're a power run team now. If you have noticed the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've been running the ball from a power perspective, a power scheme for the last 3 to 4 weeks, and we've been successful with it in stretches. This is the game we actually stuck with it and had success. Also, Eckler ripped off a 72-yard run early on, and perfectly blocked, perfectly schemed. It was, he was off to the races. Once he got in the second level, nobody could catch him. So, it's definitely something that I've been screaming for. And if y'all remember me saying this, I said that with the alignment we have, Zion Johnson, the young guy, along with Jamari Sallier, they're power run blockers. So, Lombardi finally, maybe he heard me and maybe he didn't, because I've been yelling at him on Twitter, a little bit too. That's a whole other conversation. But, he heard me say that, or he realized that he can get more done from a power run set. So we've been, instead of doing zone blocking, man-on-man, double teaming at the point of attack and things of that nature, we've been trapping, pulling, moving guys, especially down and around the goal line. And we've been having a lot of success. Because I think that's where it started, because I think 3 or 4 games ago, we actually scored a couple of touchdowns in the red zone through running. I think one game, Justin Herbert didn't have a touchdown pass at all, but Austin Eckler had like 2 or 3 touchdowns. So we just, we've realized that the power scheme, getting Zion on the move, getting Jamari on the move was going to bode well for us, and we're just building on it. So that's a plus. So I think that him realizing that at the right time, finally figuring out before the season ended is definitely a thumbs up going into the playoffs. On top of the fact that we were able to move the ball effortlessly, in my opinion, in the pass game, because we had the running game to lean on. Again, another point I've been harping on. You have a running sack to lean on. It doesn't have to be the Cleveland Browns. It doesn't have to be the 49ers type of level of dominance, but it has to be something that the defense has to account for. So once they account for it, then all of a sudden everything else opens up. You have better lanes to throw through, because guess what? The linebackers are cheating up, won't play action and sets and things of that nature. So they're biting up those lanes in the middle and towards the flat and curl areas, are opening up easier. So, I would say Keenan Allen and Mike Williams had a field day.
I was going to say, it helps when Mike Williams pulls off, makes some sick one-handed catches look pretty routine.
Effortless, right? I mean, one-handed and with the pirouette with the toe tap drag. I mean, beautiful. So, I mean, I don't have much to complain about in this game, honestly. We ran the ball well. We threw the ball well. Justin had 2 touchdown passes. It was magical from an accuracy perspective. So I love that. Only thing I didn't love is the fact that we've been really good against the run in the last 3 weeks. We weren't this week. So, we're kind of leaning back towards, getting back towards who we were in the beginning of the season. And getting healthier in that aspect is kind of a cause for concern, but I'm not going to, browbeat him for that. I mean, Derwin was out. I feel like that him being in the lineup versus out helps our run defense as well, because he's really good around the box. So having him back out of concussion protocol most likely this week against the Broncos will be a plus. So I think we'll have better success in that regard. But our pass defense in the last 4 weeks has not given up more than 175 yards total in the game. So that's definitely a plus and something that's clicking for us going into the playoffs. So I definitely love that. So all in all, I think that the game was solid, and what we should be working on getting better at this point, outside of health, is the fact that we're starting to click on both sides of the football, and that could be a dangerous formula for us going into the playoffs.
I think that's an interesting point. I also think the important piece is that the Rams have kind of quietly cobbled together a pretty good offensive line despite the injuries.
Yeah, they had
Yeah. Like they had major injury issues almost all season,
all year.
And they've kind of done the, ebbs and flows, musical chairs, if you will, and they finally landed on a really solid group of mostly backups, but one or two starters.
Yeah, what
And I
originally
think
for most of the year, and I think that
right.
once they got him back, and Havenstein has been there the whole entire time. He's the right tackle, and they picked up Odea Boucher, who played for us last year in the free agency or off the waiver wire, and they picked up another guy, Ty Siki. So the right tackle's still bad. I mean, left tackle, excuse me, it's still bad. But those four guys, to your point, Richie, have once they started working together a lot, they've actually been able to move the ball pretty well.
Yeah, and that goes a long way when you have guys that mesh and work well together.
Chemistry, man, you got to build it. Yeah, you got to build.
Yeah, chemistry. And especially where offensive line is a lot of timing and kind of just almost the unspoken word between the linemen of just kind of understanding what's going on. Whereas the D line, from what I can tell,
and you see the difference,
is more along the lines of communication. That you have to communicate. You have to be on the same page.
You got to communicate on the offensive line too.
Well, you're talking to a former center right below you here.
Communication is priority number one on the offensive line.
No, but I didn't say it wasn't. My point is that the defense have to they can get away with being not quite on the same page as long as they know what they're supposed to generally do individually. Whereas the offensive line, they have to all communicate, but then they also all need to be on the same page. And in my opinion, what makes an offensive line go from good to great is if I know that you're not great against a certain style of technique and I can see that the dude is starting to use that against you, I need to recognize that and make a minor adjustment so that I can kind of help you out on the O-line. Whereas on the D line, I don't think that kind of stuff matters quite as much as it does, say, on the offensive line. And it's just the little things that I think that make the bigger difference on the offensive line, where I think it's the bigger issues on the D line that make the bigger difference, like technique, hand placement, winning the hand battles at the line, that kind of stuff. Also, speed of jumping off the line can make a huge difference for D linemen as well, in terms of kind of getting that one up on the O lineman when they kind of jump off. And again, I think that stuff is, don't get me wrong, communication is key on the O-line, but I think that you can get away with more individuality on the D-line than you can on the O-line. But and I think that kind of went against you guys a little bit, Coach, in that game. Is just the Rams. Sadly, they're done, right? So it doesn't matter. Yeah. But it really did make for a much more difficult game against the Chargers, just because they've kind of started firing on all cylinders when it doesn't matter.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, a little too little too late, right? A little too little.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but I think ultimately it was pretty good. So again, I want to just be mindful of time and kind of be able to roll through and get really into the upcoming divisional games. But before we get into the upcoming divisional games, Alex, you and I have a few words that we need to go over.
Alex might have more words than you, but yeah.
I don't know. I'm on the week
I'm not so sure about that one.
So I'm not stuck in the past of week 17.
Oh boy.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. I want you to remember that when the Raiders beat you.
Well,
you have to come on.
The thing though is, even if they do, the Chiefs will have a game after that game. Will the Raiders or Broncos?
No.
Ooh.
No.
I would like for you to remember.
It's always
I would like
good whooping your ass.
What?
So Alex, I would like for you to remember that as a general answer, because there is still the possibility that you could be one and done in those playoffs.
Oh boy, here we go.
And
we're in the playoffs.
That's fine. I would rather not be in the
play for the 7th year in a row and beat the Broncos for the 15th straight time. So,
dude, I would rather miss the playoffs because my previous GM couldn't draft worth crap than to go into the playoffs and get embarrassed.
Yeah.
Because that means I'm not good enough to compete against the best.
It
But
sounds like someone who's not going to the playoffs. So they got to have to hang their
Fine.
hat on something.
no, it's just
I
being
mean, I'm
honest.
just saying, man. They're not going to get embarrassed. They've been to the AFC Championship game 4 years in a row. What makes you think, from the resume that is this season, it was a season where they were supposed to finish dead last, that they're going to go into the playoffs and get embarrassed?
I think there's at least 2 teams that could do it.
Okay, Bengals and Bills, the only 2 teams, probably one of which they're going to have to beat to go to the Super Bowl. Okay. They're not playing the Bengals or Bills in the first week of the playoffs, are they? No, they're not.
No, Jacob's hilarious. I'm laughing at Jacob.
Oh, yeah. That's great. You just got called a cookie.
Yeah.
A little cookie.
I have never been called a cookie.
I'm a big cookie, a jumbo cookie.
Jumbo cookie.
So Alex, I did want to get your take on the Cortland Sutton offensive pass interference call, as I alluded to earlier in the podcast in the intro.
Oh yeah.
Where do you land on that? And I'm just
You're
gonna, obviously
call.
You're gonna. Yeah, that's a pretty bad call. Yeah.
I mean, there was contact by both of them, but if you look at the letter of the law, I mean, Brian Cook started it. But you're not going to hear me defend that was not a bad call. But unfortunately, refs do that in every game, and kind of in this, I was honestly shocked that it was offensive PI, given the sort of progression the league has taken to sort of, I guess, progress, offense and more scoring and everything else. That when I saw the flag, I thought for sure it was a defensive pass interference. But
because that was contact 5 yards after the line.
I disagree that it was a bad call. Was I upset about it? No, but it definitely is not. Is not a good call. And some of that stuff though is just so in the heat of the moment. That's the thing with officiating, and that's why. I kind of, if you can find a way to not severely delay the game, I'm all for reviewing these types of things, because they certainly change the landscape of where the game's heading and outcomes. I mean, because that was like what, a 40-yard completion, a 40-yard completion. He gets that, you call PI. I mean, either way, it doesn't really matter because it's first down regardless. But I mean, you be able to look at that and see that Cook started the contact, then the Broncos aren't in the situation they're in. But at the same time, you can't open the door for something like that if you can't do it efficiently, because then you're just going to have challenges and reviews left and right to where no one's going to want to watch. So,
Can I chime in on that? Because I have an interesting take on that. And this goes back to the whole conversation we had weeks ago about rules in the NFL. I think that that college is doing things from a rule perspective a little better than the NFL is at this moment, and it should be the other way around. I think that going back to my conversation about saying that the PI should be 15 yards regardless. That's one thing. I also believe that they should do an automatic review like they do in colleges, do a quick booth review rather than having them challenge it when certain things are questionable. And you can get through it quicker. That way you don't have to wait and throw the challenge flag, them review it, call upstairs, and you all get involved, all that good stuff. Just review it quickly and keep the game moving and keep the game progressing, versus it being a situation where you gotta, you can kind of hedge your bet. Do I want to challenge? Do I not? Do I want to waste it? I might need it. That kind of thing. Let the brass upstairs handle it real quick and just get it out of the ways, rather than letting it be a coach's decision whether or not to challenge it. I think some things are questionable.
Well, didn't it? Was it 2 years ago?
What happened?
Wasn't it like 2 years ago they tried making these reviewable, or was that like proposed? I know it was. I think
it was proposed.
It's proposed. I don't think it ever.
No, it was proposed, but it never made it. It never passed.
Yeah, it never passed.
And Captain, I don't know if you can tell or not, but there is still quite a bit of lag in terms of video and audio from your side. which is fine.
I'm going to pop out. I'm going to reboot. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
I'm going to reboot.
I just want to let you know,
back.
that's all. Yeah, I just want to let you know. So
but yeah, that was a bad call.
Yeah, and ultimately, I think what the real issue here is a call should not impact the outcome of a football game, especially when it is so egregiously visible on field that there was both parties that were hand fighting like that. And at the end of the day, actually, in my opinion, there was really only one call, actually dueling calls that would have been appropriate in that moment to make it an actual fair thing. It should have been offensive pass interference if you wanted to actually call it that, or which I actually don't agree with, but it is what it is, and it looked like he was pushed back, even though I don't think he really was. But at the end of the day, it should have been offsetting penalties where you had the defender who was hand fighting and made contact after the line of scrimmage, which should have been, a call in and of itself. Because I think, to your point, you were like, he made contact. That was totally on the defender. Even from a Chiefs fan, you're like, oh, he's done. And then I think that from my perspective, if you are going to call some kind of offensive pass interference on that, you need to have the offsetting penalties to at least negate the yards.
Yeah. No, I mean, and it's just kind of like I was alluding to earlier, just, like these types of calls, unfortunately, happen almost every game. There's at least one, and that's just kind of the human nature of officiating because, the ref that threw the flag, I mean, very well could have just saw Cortland Sutton at the end. And to him, he's calling it. He didn't see the whole longevity of the contact or the whole picture, so to speak. But, that's just kind of an unfortunate casualty of the game to some degree.
Right. But, and I think that if you look at it compared to, like, say, the legal, like in a courtroom, for example, the whole concept of innocent until proven guilty, I think when you apply that to the football field loosely, obviously, I think that's actually the under kind of the undertone and the underlying issue with the way that the NFL currently has its rules set, which is call on the field trumps whatever Booth says, because we want the game to appear as natural as possible. Well, I mean, a bad call is a bad call, and ultimately should be overruled.
That's the ultimate point of the booth, right? Is to negate.
Right. Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Exactly. Use it if you put something like that in place.
I don't think nobody's going to browbeat you for getting the call right. I don't think that's going to be the issue.
No.
Much for that.
Wait, let's put it this way. I don't think that Alex would have been sitting at home watching the game saying, how dare you try to make the correct call by negating what was an egregious call to begin with. He's probably gonna be like, damn, that would have been really helpful if we got the call. But at the end of the day,
sweet.
that would have been sweet. But I kind of agree.
Exactly. I said, that I don't know if that was offensive PI, but I'm not upset about it.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, every team, all of us can point to a play where we've been on the receiving end of the call like that.
Absolutely.
It happens.
That brings me to my second issue. Ultimately, I thought that game was very, very close, and I think that a game that is that close, you cannot have. I mean, this is actually ultimately what my issue is with the game. When you have a game that is that close, you cannot have officiating mistakes that are that egregious. Because they actually do impact the outcome of the game.
Yeah.
That brings me to my second one, which is, since when was a suplex a football move?
I've been monitoring this Twitter chat.
You have you?
I don't necessarily agree with. I mean, you got to look too that Russ was not stopping trying to advance the ball when that all happened. I mean, if he got the ball out, it's kind of hard as a defender. I get it. You got a guy you're trying to take down, and he's trying to stay up and progress the ball. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Just stop and not and let him complete a pass because they didn't blow it.
He wasn't progressing the ball.
Watch the film. He did. He threw
I did.
it.
He was not progressing the ball.
He wasn't trying to like just give up on the play. So I mean, he got the ball. I mean, I'm just saying, like you want to tell defenders that they can't, take someone down in an aggressive way, but then
no,
the guy
I can't because the rule says you can't.
Yeah, I mean,
that's my point. The rule says you can't.
Well, yeah, but it's not. I mean, I understand that's what the rules say, but at the same time, it's not called the same way. Like Mahomes has gotten hit like that, if not worse, and they haven't called stuff. They call Chris Jones
hit worse.
He has, and they don't call it. In the Texans game, he got lit up at least one time. No penalty. You can go find it. But then you have Chris Jones says something to Matt Ryan and gets a penalty. So, I mean, the root of the problem is that they have this rule, but they don't have the staff, or they haven't trained their staff in an efficient manner for them to call it consistently. I mean, by review of the play, yes, it could have been called that, but I'm just saying that was not the first time this season, nor is it the first time moving forward that type of hit.
I agree with that.
Not be called.
I agree with that. But my point ultimately is the NFL, first off, I don't like that the fact the NFL has implemented all these soft rules.
Yeah.
I miss
that. We can literally do a whole podcast just on that alone.
Oh, I agree. And I wouldn't mind doing some kind of a short kind of aside on that kind of stuff, to be quite honest, because I hate the fact that these rules have gone as soft as they have, because in my opinion, it puts an overemphasis on the defenders to potentially put themselves at risk. I come from a family that has played contact sports for like 3 or 4 generations. I know exactly what I am personally doing to my body when I am in those games, and I have signed up for it. That is what
I'll tell you, that rule was put in place. I think it was after Aaron Rodgers got hurt for the year when Anthony Barr landed on him, broke his collarbone.
That's exactly
what. I mean, it put in place for the reason everything is in money, and that the fans don't want to watch Jordan Love play 18, 18 plus weeks.
Right.
And I understand the need, I guess, to protect quarterbacks a bit more, but yeah, I mean, at the same time, the way they have it set up right now is just not adequate because it's not consistent.
I agree with that. That's what the problem is. That's what the problem is. You have to call it consistently. It has to be
kind of where I was going
to
with, and I'd be curious to kind of like pull up every clip of your more like mobile-esque QBs and how many situations like this that they're in and they don't get a call because they're kind of known to extend plays. And part of me thought that maybe that's why. You saw Russ trying to extend the play, and Russ has at least from the whole resume of his career as the kind of QB he's been, maybe not trying to be as much this year, but like your Cam Newtons and your Lamars and Kyler Murray's, I bet you can find a plethora of plays like this where it could probably be a call, but they don't get it, maybe because they kind of have that allure of being a scrambler and getting out of it,
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, that goes to your consistency, because that shouldn't be part of the analysis. It should be, here's your black letter law here. Follow it. If you see this, throw the flag.
Well, I think
I think that's where the booth comes in.
Well, true. But I think the overarching thing we can all agree on is that officiating, especially this year, has been piss poor across the board. Like, it doesn't matter whose team we're talking about. I think that the refereeing and officiating has been left a lot to be desired in this entire season. Like, there's been calls every week we were like, really, you really missed that? Like, how really? That's not what we're asking for. That's not what we're looking for. So booth or no booth, calls or no calls, they've definitely been overarchingly bad. And it's been more so this year than I feel like it's been in previous years.
Yeah, and especially with the roughing the passer.
Yes,
it's just such a
That's the most inconsistent one of
Like
them.
that's the thing that's the craziest though, is you look at like you go watch that clip of Chris Jones and Russell Wilson, and then you go to week 2 and you watch Chris Jones get a penalty, the same penalty for saying something to Matt Ryan.
Right.
And you don't understand, like, where the hell is this coming from? Like,
Exactly.
where is this assessment?
Mm.
Like, for all we know, Chris Jones could have said to Matt Ryan, I was going to suplex you. Yeah. He thought about it.
Yeah.
But,
Alex, what the problem is that Chris Jones realized that Matt Ryan's over 6'4", and that Russell Wilson is about the size of a midget. And so he could actually suplex Russell Wilson just because he's so short. He just couldn't do it with Matt Ryan. So
I bet
verbally threatened one and actually did it to the other.
I'm sure he raised more than Matt Ryan. I'm sure of that.
Matt Ryan just kind of, just looks like he weighs
frail.
about $160.
And it's soaking wet.
No, but no, I mean, you're not gonna find me denying or defending the refs on those calls. I mean, especially the pass interference on Sutton. The roughing the passer or non-call on that. I don't. I mean, that's just more of a systematical problem with how they train their refs or have their refs look at that. Because I mean, like I said, every QB's is taking at least one hit like that should have been called and they didn't this year. I mean, that's just the way it is right now. But
see, ultimately, in my opinion, what we should have seen from that particular play against Wilson in that game is we should have seen when I think it was Jones, if I'm not mistaken, that came around the edge and wrapped him, or was it? No, it was Dunlop, wasn't it? It was Dunlop.
Yeah,
it was Dunlop. Yeah. So Dunlop ultimately wrapped Russ. As soon as Dunlop had Russ, and then Russ was kind of like in a fetal position, trying to stop himself from being pushed backwards, play should have been whistled dead. Because that would have been consistent with what the NFL has done for the vast majority of the season, which is you just took a sack, no sack, because we're trying to protect you from getting hurt. Instead, the refs literally let that play out and then turned away right as either Dunlap or Jones decided that they were going to do their best impression of Triple H on the football field. And literally
Steiner's a suplex machine.
Yeah, like literally it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And then it was like, and then he did like the rah, like look what I did. And then the only thing I'm saying is like, one, you just did something illegal, so high five to you for celebrating it. And then two, like, where's the officiating? Because that's the most egregious penalty that I've ever seen not called.
It's not as bad as old Thibodeau on the Giants doing snow angels when Nick Foles like convulsing on the field. So,
bad, bro.
And then he doubled down on it in his interview today.
He did.
He's like, I don't know who Jeff Saturday is. If I don't know you, then your opinion doesn't matter.
Wow.
Boy, I walked into something.
But it's.
Yeah, but the only thing missing on that Russell play was a Hogan leg drop. So all you had to do, just get
need to RKO him.
Drop. Yeah, that's a good one too. RKO the Hogan leg drop.
Well, actually, no. I mean, in reality, really, the only thing that was missing was basically your
the chair.
No, you get people's elbow.
Yeah, people's elbow. Yeah, there you go.
Someone to bring out the table to throw him down.
Devon, get the table.
Yeah. So, but anyways, that was really what was missing there, and ultimately, kind of getting back and kind of tying this off with a neat little bow. We'll move on to the upcoming week here, guys, and that is what I ultimately felt was that, particularly the offensive pass interference call. That was a huge momentum killer, and it, in my opinion, truly did change the outcome of the game based on the gain that was on that particular play, and the fact that it was effectively dueling penalties, which really ought to have meant that you just don't call it at all. But That was a huge game changer there. And then the other one, which I also think was a game changer, was, you can't give another dude a suplex on the field and get away with it. Like, you just should,
What
like, that should
game
not be
was this?
legal. Like, that just.
Chiefs Broncos.
What?
Russell got it. Russell
Chiefs
got a
Broncos.
suplex. Yeah, Russell got a suplex for his pleasure.
Captain, all you need to do is look at my Twitter feed. I retweeted
Okay.
the actual video clip of it. I mean, to call it blatant is underselling what actually happened. Like, it was brutal.
Okay. And again,
Like,
I'm back.
Like, the only thing we were missing, Captain, was the entire stadium lights dimming, the Undertaker music coming on,
and the smoke machine.
Wilson getting picked up and tombstoned in the middle of the. So, like, that was literally all we were missing in that particular play. It was that bad.
Okay.
But ultimately, I think that there was 2 penalties in that game. And Captain, I found like I almost sound like I'm sounding like you now at the end of this game.
Hey,
because,
you always
mention like
wait a second. When I bitch about penalties and being screwed over, it's real. It's real. And when you have the NFL have other people, when there are people around the league that are freaking what do you call it? Commentators and other officials say that the Raiders actually it's real, the bias and the BS that we go through. And that's one of the reasons why we have such a great show with NFL Nation Live coming up at 9:00 Eastern.
You shameless plug, man.
There you go. With a retired NFL referee and myself and Violet, because we talk about the
Dips out of the show, comes back, plugs his other one.
Hey,
there you go.
Like I said, if you're going to give me a segue, baby, I'm going to run with it. But still.
And Captain, I'd also like to note that your plug was lag and glitch free. So
yes,
I have to say that was probably planned.
Yeah, no. And I'll admit this. I apologize, folks, but I throw a bunch of stuff on my desktop. And there's video on my desktop and big PowerPoint things that I work with. So I just got rid of it. I put there's a big folder that's a folder that's a link to a folder, so it's not on my desktop, of stuff I cleared from my desktop. So now when the season's over, I will go through all of that stuff and make it. So apologies there. It's just that when I'm busy doing things and making graphics and stuff, I just use my desktop. So I'm hoping that the official, or I'm a little bit, you guys can hear me and see me a lot better.
Yes, the beard is whiter. It matches your hat now. You're good.
Oh, was that bad?
Yeah, it's in high definition now.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
Is
you know
that
what's in high?
mustard in there?
You know what else is in high?
I can't.
You gotta give me the segue, especially when there's no lag. I'm gonna use it, baby.
I need something to gouge my eyes.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, no lag here. Woohoo! Anyway, no, it's not porn, Jack. I keep telling you. I go through this.
Jack, this is also the same dude that talked about RedTube at the start of the show.
There you go.
Yeah,
Exactly.
RedTube.
Don't let him fool you.
RedTube.com. I don't keep it up though. No pun intended.
What's the over under on Cap having malware?
Biggest donation gets Cap's browser's account.
Hey! I need a browser's account, man. That's one of the better sites. Browsers. Anyway, let's get back to football.
If this is the rail, we've gone off it.
Hey, wait a second. This one's not on me. This one's not on me.
We still drove off the rails. We still drove off the rails, Cap. It didn't matter. We still drove off the rails.
And that is why we have an entertaining show, folks.
We still ride to the gutter. No matter who started it.
For the record, it wasn't me.
It wasn't me this time. I'm innocent. I'm innocent.
So, there you go. What are we talking about? Come on.
So let's go ahead to the week ahead, Captain. I'm I'm going to throw over to you just due to timing here to make sure that we get your Raiders recap in.
Yes,
Interestingly enough, we are now kind of side by side in terms of who's playing one another.
No, hey, DZ, and I said it correctly for the host here. DZ, no farmers only, man. Redtube.com. I'm just saying, okay? Get the site
man.
right.
And J-Day.
Okay.
And OnlyFans.
Oh no, I got the OnlyFans. Like I said, if you want extra Capt, then go to my OnlyFans page.
There you go.
Last I heard, I thought your OnlyFans page was called Rock the Plank.
Or walk the plank. You can walk the plank too.
Nah.
But anywho, moving on to the Raiders-Chiefs game.
Yes, sir.
Alex, wait, are you frozen now?
No, he's
Oh, no, you're good. Okay.
He froze himself like he was stuck in position. He didn't.
Yeah, he's like,
That's just me.
So that was a hey you guys moment right there.
That was the girl at the club waiting for a drink.
Yeah.
Hey, you look like Andy Reid's son. I want to do you. Hey.
Oh boy.
If I had a nickel for him every time someone said that to me,
You'd have a
There you
nickel.
yeah.
Indeed.
So on, I guess there is a point here where maybe before we get into the week, we can perhaps discuss what took place with the young man there from the Buffalo Bills.
Yes, sir.
There has been some pretty trash takes, in my opinion, in terms of
Skip Bayless talking to
you know. Well, I mean, Skip Bayless, I think, in terms of what he did and what he said, I think can be interpreted two different ways. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions. Certain people, I think have taken a different thing. The one piece that I do want to basically put to rest here is especially the one that we heard from some other guys like criticizing T. Higgins. By all accounts, you have to imagine that T. Higgins, T. Higgins has got to be beside himself, right? Like he's got to be beside himself.
Well, first off, and I want to lay this straight. I was still traveling on Monday night when Ed Winchell, a big fan of this show, obviously Skip, who I agree with you there, Ed Winchell, salute to you, brother. He told me, he said, hey, it looks like there was a near death on the field, and they suspended the game. Okay. I'm not going to go into the idiosyncrasies. I'm not going to go because everybody has an opinion. I do think that the NFL is covering up for the fact that, and I'm not a big fan of Jack Buck because he's a flaming rectal hemorrhoid. But if he said it 3 times, 4 times that the NFL said there's going to be a 5-minute warm up period, the NFL is going to. He was told that. He has information from who? The NFL. The NFL is covering that up. I'm not going to fault Jack Buck for that, okay? But it was apparent, and rightly so, that the coaches got together because this is something that, I mean, this is beyond. I think there was one gentleman in 1971 who played for the Lions, I believe. Okay, sorry, Mike, Joe Buck. Jack Buck, may he rest in peace. Joe, his son that basically has maybe 1/100th of his talent, but he got on because of his name being Buck. So Mike, Sarah, thank you for that. It was Joe Buck. But anyway, the fact is that there was a tragedy on the field. Yeah, Jimmy Farrell, I already said I screwed up, okay? But at least I knew what the Buck family name is, okay? The point is that to this day, or to this moment, I still have not seen the play. I've been too busy. I've been working and other things like that. But from what I've been told, it was an innocuous, a basic tackle.
Yeah, it was. He popped right up.
And Hamlin popped right up. took like about 2 steps and went backwards.
He
And
took 2 steps, adjusted his face mask, and then you just saw him kind of go.
He just literally went
wonky,
limp.
and then boom, right back. Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, like Matt Marinovich was saying, that the tackle, and I'm not trying to bring these two things up into it, but there is a point that I'm going to make here. The Jack Tatum hit on Darryl Stingley was a seemingly innocuous tackle as well. But look what happens. It something that you don't think can do damage, can do harm. It's where the hit is and the outcome of the hit. Okay. Tatum's hit was not dirty. There was no flag on it. And people say to this day that he should know. It was a good, clean, hard hit on Darryl Stingley. And from what I've been told, the hit that Hamlin made on Tiggins was just a good, clean, hard tackle, pops up, and then he's out. So, again, in the game of football, these players lay it on the line, okay? And people always seem to forget that. That's why that they have issues like CTE, that they have issues where you have these guys that are dying young, okay? So I want, and like I said, our boy Stuart Schweiger, who is on our friend of the show, who played football. I'd love to get a chance to talk with Stuart and things like that. I'll get a chance to hopefully talk with some of the people talk. Okay, so remember, I still think that the money's a little bit much overall, but still, there's a reason why they make the money that they do is because there is no product without the players on the field giving it their all. So always remember that. Always remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was actually a freak accident, in all honesty. It wasn't one of those things where
I don't think any part of the game caused
I think it was a free accident. It was like wrong place, wrong time. He got hit at the moment that his heart was in a certain rhythm and things of that nature. They even referenced it happening to a hockey player years ago. I think we talked about this yesterday, Rich, on my show, is the fact that it was just wrong place, wrong time, and it was a freak accident. I want to call it 1 in a million, but it's a very low chance of it happening, in a game or any sport that you get hit in your chest. It was just one of those things where, because I think they said it can happen even when you're in a car accident. A seatbelt can jolt you like that, and at the wrong heart rhythm at that moment, it could cause you to go to cardiac arrest from an accident. So those type of things, have happened. And it's not one thing that T. Higgins did or DeMar did wrong or anything like that. It was just one of those things with a free accident. It was very eerie and very jarring. But, I'm just hoping and praying that he actually, pulls through this. But, there's nobody to blame here. You can't blame NFL. You can't blame.
For what it looks like, too, it looks like he will
take
pull
part of the game, anything. What'd you say, Alex?
I said from everything that's been coming out, it looks like he's at least recovering well.
Yeah, he's progressing.
And, I got a couple of friends that are in the medical field. I'm blanking on what it's some condition or that they think that's what he had. And it's like and people make full recoveries as long as a
hockey player did to have it
before their readings and at least from what's been released, that Hamlin's, in that sort of stage. So
right.
At least from that perspective, things are looking good. I was glad too that they didn't play the game.
I agree with that.
But like the chat's been saying, and like I think Zach Taylor kind of confirmed that today. It was more of the coaches' decisions and the players than
it should have been
anyone in the league did, which is a little disheartening. But the minute that that was more than a minute of time and all of that, after everything happened, I was like, yeah, you can't play this. You can't go on. Because, when I was in college, we had a teammate
I do
collapse
think
on
that
the
NFL
field.
needs to I do think that the NFL in situations like this, and I think this is where most people are kind of up in arms a little bit about this current situation, is the NFL. Injuries are going to happen in a game, and a guy tears an ACL and the NFL game goes on, right? Like we've seen those types of injuries happen, sadly, on a regular basis, but the game continues to go on. And I think that it's up to
even paralysis in certain regard. Ryan Shazier, the game went on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And well, so I guess here's where were
but
a
I mean,
reasonable.
I think those are kind of like apples to. I mean, I don't like the Shazier. I thought of that too. When he was on the field, but I think it's a little different when than just the game goes on mentality when they're confirming to everyone that's watching it's Monday Night Football. Hey, this guy's getting CPR on the field. There's an ambulance on the field. Like you never see that. I mean, everyone you see all the players' faces it's like they literally like watched him die, which at least fortunately enough that didn't happen. But this was kind of just kind of one of those outlier type of injuries and events after the fact that I just don't see how anyone can say, nope, game goes on, get them off and go.
Yeah, in that situation, no, definitely can't. I mean, because you were basically going to ask for somebody else to get hurt because they weren't going to be focusing on football. Alex, you and I know from playing, if you're not 100% mentally to football, you are not supposed to be playing that.
I've played football before.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
I mean, do you want me to get my leather helmet out again?
I forgot, Cap. My bad.
Okay.
My bad.
Okay.
No, that's what I was getting to. Sorry, Cap.
Yeah, okay. It's like it's right there. I'll go grab my friggin' leather helmet.
In fairness, I was never blessed to play football at a high level, just kind of more recreationally.
Much worse and more psychotic.
I played a sport at a very, very high level that requires no pads and hitting at the same intensity as football.
Yeah.
And so I look, this is why I keep on having the same kind of comments that I do, and the way that I have them is I come from a family that has been playing contact sports forever.
No pads.
Like forever.
No pads.
And we just don't believe in padding. We don't believe in, like, a broken arm is a minor inconvenience.
I would like to put out to the panel, though, as well, is that I would like to ask if anybody has seen an event live that was as bad, and I would say I have.
I have too.
Because I was calling a game in football, Northeast High School 2019. The gentleman whose last name was Welch, okay? And the kid was he was a senior, and he had a boat ton of scholarship offers. He was probably one of the best players on the team at Northeast High. And I'm up and I'm doing I did the PA / play-by-play, which made it rather unique for the area. And I'm calling the game, and there was the scene where I forgot the gentleman's first name, the kid's first name. Welch made the tackle, and he's laid out on the field, okay? And I'm looking. Obviously, everybody stops, and there's the ambulance. There's people coming out there, and the coach gathered the team around. And unfortunately, you don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going on, okay? And I saw when they put him, Mr. Welch, on the stretcher, okay. He had like the shakes in his legs. So I said, oh, well, that's a good sign. I mean, because I don't know what's going on. It's a good sign that, I said, okay, well, at least I see some movement there. Unfortunately, what I did not know was that he had a brain aneurysm.
Oh, wow.
At that point, dang. He was basically, a vegetable at that point. And again, it was hard. It was hard to know that. I went after that game. I flew out the next day. It was a Saturday. Went out to Vegas for the games. And, and I found out later on that he was again, look it up, Northeast High Welch 2019. And that he ended up giving parts of his body, he was a donor. So this is something, like I said, at any given moment, tomorrow is not promised. That's why I kind of say, I don't joke about it, but I said, hey, inshallah, I will be here to see you tomorrow, because again, I'm here with my friends and family. So never take it for granted. Never take anything for granted. I'm sorry to go off on a somber tangent, but it just needed to be said.
I had an initial
I've
thought.
actually seen. Sorry, go ahead. I wanted to say I have actually seen things of this nature before, not with the same outcome, but with similar.
I saw $5 from Jack. I got distracted. Right. Yeah.
No, and Violators with us.
So I've
well.
actually. Oh, fantastic!
Nice.
Violator, nice to see you, buddy.
Nice.
And for those of you who don't know, Violator does in fact have a book that's out with regards to his history and kind of where he's at now, what he's done.
There it is. There you go. That's nice. That's a nice cover there.
Fascinating. I'm partway through it. It's a super interesting book. I actually would recommend it.
That looks expensive.
Always have your props ready. Always have your props ready. I got everything ready to go.
Just keep the blow up dolls out of the camera.
Hey. You keep Trixie out of this.
I'm sorry. Oh, man.
And, I actually won on one of the shows a signed copy of that book. So I did have it sent to me. In fairness, I just want to let you guys know. But I've actually witnessed similar. I've witnessed similar injuries in rugby before to what we saw from Hamlin. I've watched guys stand up and drop down. I've watched guys. We've seen it a couple times on the field in NFL games, even this season actually.
Yeah, but it's been concussions. It's been concussion related though, not heart. Mm-hmm. That's what scared me. We thought it was concussion immediately when he fell like that. But when they were getting to the point where he said it was heart related, I was like, wow, how?
Yeah,
that kind of thing. I was thinking maybe cracked ribs or punctured lung or something like that because he got hit in the chest. But man, it was just eerie feeling, man.
So I've seen some stuff like that before. So it's not the first time I've seen an injury like that. What it is, the first time I've seen an injury in a rugby or football game, which I kind of see as somewhat similar in terms of taking hits and that kind of stuff, is the first time I've seen a guy get up and move around.
Yeah, that was all the
Yeah, I think he was popped up and was like, no shit.
Yeah, and then boom. Now I had a play when I broke my leg. So DZ actually made a comment about how like the rugby game is played, and so my take is a little bit different than some, which is I come from that as a culture. So I think it's important that you kind of understand where my mental mindset is here, which is the game always went on. And to put things in perspective, I shattered my right leg playing rugby. I did not break it. I shattered it. Like as it was in so many pieces that I was in a 6-hour operation to rebuild my leg after I was done the game. And I continued playing part of a play with that leg and realized that my foot was limp and I had to stop. So I dropped. and so to put things in perspective, that's the general culture that I personally come from the sport that I played. And so I can appreciate where some people might come and say, well, where is the line? And I think that's an appropriate question. Because Alex, to your point, and some of the comments we made before is we've seen ACLs, they continue playing. We've seen a broken leg, they continue playing. We've seen a concussion, they continue playing. Now, this is certainly egregious. Don't get me wrong. You saw a grown man stand up on the field and literally drop backwards and like go limp. I think that's a unique situation. But I also think that the NFL needs to do something to define that so that as fans, we know watching it that that's a line. And I also think that players need to know that that's a line. Because otherwise,
I think we just discovered it. I think we just discovered the line.
I think that's
that's fine. But the NFL has not defined that as a line. So my point is that before we jump on all these people that are asking that very question or making those types of comments, and you may not like how they're making those comments, but they're still basically at the core of what they're saying, asking those types of questions. I think we need to understand that it wasn't defined. So I think it's a valid question to ask, to say, where on this sliding scale are we saying when whatever we're talking about happens, the game stops.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Well,
a fair question.
And I think too. I mean, I think if there wasn't, I don't want to call it pushback, but I don't think if there wasn't, the choice by the Bengals and Bills coaches and players to not play, then it would have gone on. Because that seemed to be, at least, as Cap said, with Joe Buck and sort of the presentation or coverage ESPN was providing. I mean, that seemed to be the impression they were giving off was, we're just taking some time to get this player off the field, and then we're going to pick this game back up. Because, I mean, I almost guarantee the NFL never once, the higher ups in the NFL never once talked about, as this was happening in real time, no, we can't, we got to suspend this game because you're talking about Monday Night Football. You're talking about Bengals and the Bills with, the number one seed on the line. Like, they wanted to do everything possible to get that game back on television and back to resuming. But, I think to Coach's point too, I think from the player coach perspective, this is where they're drawing the line. Like, this happens, we're not going.
And I don't think that's a bad thing to show that the NFL has a human component to it, and I think that's a thing that's important to bring to light. So I understand, but I just want to quickly bring up Kenneth's comment here, just in terms of comparing football and rugby, what we've seen. I think this all ties together really well, to be quite honest. I never felt unsafe on a rugby pitch. I'm also 6'2" and 245 when I was playing. So I look like a gladiator when I'm on the pitch, and I had no pads on. I could only imagine what I would have looked like if I was in football pads. But I never felt unsafe on the pitch. The other thing to remember in rugby is most people feel pain differently than, say, I do. And most people do not come from a multi-generational contact sport family that has it ingrained within them. So most people will not hit someone at full tilt with no pads on a rugby pitch. So do they need to do more? I'm not sure they do, because I think most people regulate themselves to try to avoid themselves getting injured when they're not wearing pads. On the football field, though, I think that's a different story. I had I laughed whenever I was on like my buddies used to always play hockey, and I used to wear the exoskeleton that they used to have. I thought it was hilarious because I used to get hit with baseball bats and laugh at it because I was used to getting hit with nothing. So I thought this was comfortable.
Happy Gilmore, man, standing in front of the
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
64 days till tryouts.
Yeah, exactly. And so from my perspective, I always felt that kind of stuff was fine. And I could only imagine what I've been like if I was actually allowed to play football, because I was used to hitting people at the same speed or harder with nothing on and still doing it. So an exoskeleton would probably have put me in a spot where I would have literally felt I was invincible, because I already felt that way without pads. And I was just nuts. I still am, but I was more nuts.
That hadn't changed.
Yeah. So, Captain, I want to thank you for your take on the Raiders and the upcoming game and everything else. Captain is off to NFL Nation Live. Once this show is over, please go over and check them out, and we will go from there. Captain, thank you very much for joining us again.
Only after this show with these fine gentlemen, you got my favorite Gargler fan up. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that correctly? Yeah.
No, you did not say it correctly.
Yeah, the Gargler fan up there and congratulations on the Garglers making the playoffs. And then you got my buddy over here, Hayseed, Andy Reid, son, Alex over there. And then let me see if he's up over there. I got to go that. Yeah, there you go. See, that guy.
You're perfect from pointing tonight. You're perfect from pointing.
Don't jinx me.
I'm sorry.
One more point. One more time through.
Don't point anymore. You're good.
I'm good. I'm not going to point for the rest of that. If I'm going to point, I'm the Philippine point.
Okay. Alrighty. See, here we go again.
No, seriously, that's how they point in the Philippines.
Okay. All
it's
right.
like, where are you going?
Something else around here.
You point with your lips. Don't doon, which is there.
Okay.
Okay.
And then just
I read your super chat, Ken. I said I'm rooting for an atomic explosion. Did you not see it, or did you write another super? And thank you for the super. But again, make sure you continue with this wonderful show. It is the Wild Wild West with the folks here, and I won't say what teams they are. It's always fun to be here with all of them. But have a good one.
So, question before you go, Cap. Did McDaniel sabotage Derek Carr to get rid of him?
Yes.
He
Okay.
absolutely did.
Okay. All right.
No doubt about it.
I just wanted to ask that before he left. I just wanted to ask.
No, and I'm honest to say it. Yeah.
Honestly, I'm pretty convinced there's some backdoor collusion going on where him with him.
Hey, watch about that backdoor
to-
stuff. I said we were going to keep it clean.
Okay, there's some collusion going on with
Shout out-
McDaniel's.
Collusion.
McDaniel's talking to Brady already about scheming.
And here's the thing, and I am on record in saying it. I don't want that POS.
Oh, I know you don't, but I think that McDaniel's is just thinking, oh, I need the blueprint I had for success in New England, and that's
No, to not get fired.
You got Stidham, get Brady. I know Brady's going to do whatever is in my game plan because that's kind of what Brady's developed his whole sort of tools into at this point. So he knows he's not going to do it. I mean, do I agree with it? do I think it's the smartest thing to do? No, but I really think that just given where McDaniels came from, I think that's the move he's trying to get done.
And I tell you this, man, I don't want to pay $30 million because that's probably what it's going to be. You pay $30 million for a 46-year-old has-been.
He's been taking pay cuts all his life. He took $10 million from the Buccaneers.
Yeah, because he was still married to what is
No,
it?
he's fine.
He's good. He got $300 million waiting for him at Fox when he leaves. He's good.
Okay, here's the point. On record, don't want him. If the Raiders have him, I will support him.
Will you buy a jersey?
Will you buy his jersey?
Will you buy a jersey?
No. Fuck no, and fuck no. And that deserved the F word. You said it. So don't blame me for that one.
So Captain, I just heard that you want people to send you a Tom Brady Raiders jersey. Is that correct?
If you're going, well, here's the
What I
thing.
heard. He said he wanted all of them. The alternate,
time.
the color rush.
If you are going to do that and you take up a pot, make sure it's an elite, a $300 one.
What? You get game worn. That's what I'll do. I'll just
so Captain just said he's willing to accept the turd as long as it's a polished one.
No.
Send me on my Twitter.
No, listen to me. If you're gonna defame me like that, make sure it is an elite size 56, which I believe is XXX, correct?
Yep.
56.
Actually, no, that's 60. 60 is XXX, I believe.
60? No, that's way. I wore 56, and I'm pretty sure 56 is XXX. Okay.
You think about what you watched on your computer earlier?
What?
You said XXX. I thought you were talking about what you watched on the computer earlier.
Anyway, 56 black jersey. Brady is the only one I'm going to accept. Okay, because if you're gonna defame me by that, I will have something nice to give away on my show. If you're gonna do it, I will make it worth my while and for the people that watch my show.
I'm just gonna send Brady a clip of you saying "F no" and be like,
"Fuck no,
please send me a game worn that's signed to Captain Jack, my favorite pirate."
Yeah.
So I just want to
love Tom.
So anyways, Captain, you need to get going to your other show. I don't want you to be late on our account. Thank you very much for joining. And we will be back next week with the four of us again to discuss everything that occurred this past week and a look ahead to the AFC West.
We'll talk about a Raiders victory over the Chiefs. We'll talk about a Raiders victory over the Chiefs. And hopefully, like I said, with myself in Hollywood sitting in the front row, some more TV time, baby. And I will go with that. Gentlemen, and I use that term wonderfully and
I
approvingly.
could say
Y'all take-
loosely. Yeah.
No, I'll be nice. Gotta love the Garglers, the Barbecue Boys, and the Donkeys. You guys take care. We'll see you.
At least you sold us all equally this time. Usually it's just me.
Yeah. So, CRF16, I did want to quickly address your
He's
comment
going
there
into
about
some deep union,
Right.
deep state conspiracies
Right,
over
so-
here. Yeah.
So,
Tinfoil hat.
I'm not going to go all the way down some of your comments.
Yeah, that's for a whole
your previous
separate
comments
episode.
and those rabbit holes. I do want to discuss the NDA. Most organizations and companies have you sign an NDA for when you are there and how you are there. In fact, I have been at 5 previous organizations and have signed an NDA to every single one of them. So this is not an uncommon thing.
Well, too,
Alex,
yeah, and I thought
Alex,
too.
I guarantee you've signed an NDA at every single place you have ever been at. I know I have.
Well, yeah, and I've drafted several. So,
Yes,
but my thought with the having the players sign NDAs, I mean, you got to think, like I have to do it in my job, and it basically says whatever work I do is their product, right? And that's essentially what the athletes are doing, right? Their work is the product of whatever team they're on. And you have to have something like that to have them sign just so legally you're kind of covering your ass because you don't want them to, which I'm sure this happens, but it's at least somewhat protecting to keep them like from going to a different team and just saying, well, here's all their plays, here's everything else. It kind of keeps the professionalism of the sport, so to speak, alive. So.
I agree. I actually have 3 precedents for NDAs on my laptop here. I may or may not share them if I'm asked for them. But besides that point, Alex was 100% correct. So one reason for an NDA is not just to hide the inner workings of all the things for all the things. It's actually to help protect one team from another team. So, for example, if the Chargers are about to play the Broncos in an upcoming game, one common practice is to try to bring another player from the other team in, sometimes in terms of like a cut practice squad player, whatever the case may be. And so the Chargers may want to try to pull a Broncos practice squad player because their defensive line needs to stop the run better. And they may say, hey, we want to bring that guy in and we're going to try and probe him for the plays from the Broncos.
And then cut him a week later.
And then cut him the week later. Yeah, I cut him the week after the game, right? So this is not uncommon practice. The NFL is going to try and find a leg up wherever they can. And to Alex's point, one thing that they will try to do is have their team sign NDAs so that if it comes out where they can prove or find that player in fact shared the things with the other team that they went to, that they can actually recoup something from either both the other opposing team and the player. And let me tell you, another NFL team will happily pay $200,000 to say shut up and make the lawsuit go away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
let's just be honest, they will, right? Like it's a fact, right?
No argument there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and what have you. Jack, you did send a super chat. It was put on the screen, but guys, before we quickly get into the remaining games real quick, let's quickly jump into this because Jack has been patient with this particular question. And Jack has been a longtime fan of
it's
the
only
Wild
for
Wild
you.
West
He doesn't want me or Coach to answer. So
yeah.
No,
he feels like we're
Jack and I go back.
But
Jack and I have actually been live on camera together, so I'm pretty sure that's why he feels comfortable in shutting me out and letting the rest of you off the hook. Jack, I appreciate you being here with us and continuing to ask your questions. When KC plays the Chargers, or I guess if KC plays the Chargers, who are we rooting for? I will likely be rooting for the Chargers in that situation, to be quite honest. I would.
I am baffled.
You're baffled? No way. I really don't like Patrick Mahomes. I think he's a great QB. He is definitely an elite quarterback. I just think that between him and his brother, I can't decide which one I hate most. And
he's not. It's something about his face that you just want to punch it.
yes,
He's just too good.
I don't know what's about your face, but I just want to plant one of these right
here.
Right your
yeah,
Not necessarily here or here.
Yeah.
It's right here.
yeah. And so I just dislike Mahomes, and frankly that goes for Patrick and his brother alike.
Well, Jackson Mahomes, I get.
Yeah, I get Jackson all day.
And to be quite honest, I think Patrick Mahomes' wife is right up there for me too. I would never hate a woman at all ever, but there's a shady thing here where
I was gonna say you hate his baby too.
Well, I think at some point you've seen Jackson Mahomes and his wife together so often you have to start questioning paternity, I think. But at the end of the day, there's just something about the way that he presents himself and the way that he acts that I'm not a fan of. I also think that Patrick Mahomes hasn't said enough, in my opinion, to push back on. I mean, some of his brother's comments and behavior is just not becoming.
We have to my boy Jacob's point, though. We haven't heard about Jackson Mahomes this year, so I think he definitely did get a talking to.
I think somebody had to say something because we haven't heard from him.
I mean,
no TikTok.
I drew the line when he danced on the Sean Taylor sign. I was like, dude, come on, like get him out.
But anyways, that's my rooting for is for the Chargers. Sadly, I think Captain probably would have rooted for the Chargers because I think he hates KC more, but I won't speak for him.
He said he was rooting for an atomic.
We already know. Effectively, I'm also the only tiebreaker left on the panel, so I really think that this is the other reason why I was explicitly called out was, it's not like Alex is going to turn around and say, I'm going to root for the Chargers to beat my team and vice versa with Captain.
I might. So I think
I'm a realist. If I'm a realist, if I feel like we didn't have stand a chance to get the Chief, I would say that. But but that's not the case. So I wouldn't say that. But I think
AFC West matchups, it doesn't matter where they're at. Like they're always going to be close.
Yeah. There it is.
So I mean,
well, the division rivals they play each other different.
I swear
they just do.
The West for the AFC and the NFC East all seem to, no matter what the record is, they just have knockdown dragouts every year.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care where your team is at. Don't act like you're going to go into a team that's struggling and just run over them. It's not going to happen.
I just wish the Chiefs could be in the NFC South.
Oh, that's lovely. Everybody wants that.
Yeah, with 5 games here.
That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do.
Yeah. So, Coach, we're going to throw to Alex real quick to just quickly go over his Chiefs side against the Raiders.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's been a lot of chatter here in our live chat about how the Raiders. I actually don't disagree with it either, by the way. I think the Raiders have a good shot against the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs may not play as hard this game as they otherwise might want to. I also think that the NFL's decision ultimately with regards to the Bills and Bengals game, which I can't remember off the top of my head if they said that they're going to try to replay it or not.
Let me read you something real quick.
They just said it wasn't playing this week, I think.
Yeah, I saw interesting set of, I think it was a tweet. Okay, so there's an idea percolating that they would go with this. This is Floria saying this. First week of the playoffs will be the NFC wild card and only the Bengals and Bills. Second week of the playoffs will be the AFC wild card once we know the final seeding in the AFC after the Bills and Bengals play. Then the divisional round for everyone, AFC, NFC the following week, then the conference championship game, then the Super Bowl. You would wipe away the week in between the conference championship game and the Super Bowl, and because you're no longer playing the Pro Bowl, that will align accurately. So that's what they're proposing as the last thing I've heard regarding what they want to do for the game. So,
well, you realize that Bengals Bills game and they reschedule it. with all the publicity that game has gotten, is going to be the most watched game probably in NFL history.
No question.
I mean, like holy crap.
You know, and you know what I would want for that game for DeMar to be healthy and on the sideline. I would love that. I would love that. So if they do that, I would love that.
But could you imagine the ratings on that game alone?
Oh man, it's gonna break records, man. It's gonna break records. And no question about it. No question about it.
Oh yeah. So
I think they should.
I mean, I could totally see.
Yeah.
I could totally see that game and what Florio said playing out, because owners would sign off on that because it's going to make them more money.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And the players would probably agree to that because it pushes Hamlin, hopefully, to a point where he's healthier or healthy enough to actually be cognizant, perhaps out of the hospital, that kind of stuff. And so I could totally see that playing out. I could totally see it going that way.
Yeah, so I like the idea. You know, I mean, you just do away with the week in between the conference title game and the Super Bowl and just play it like a normal week and just get all the games in. Why not?
Yes, they're called microchips.
Jacob, you're hilarious, by the way. Yeah. But I'm for that. I am, and I don't know what's going to do for fantasy football because I know people worry about that as well. You know, that's a pressing issue.
I was out of too many. I'm out of the running. It didn't matter.
Right, me too. So yeah, it didn't matter for me either. But I do run a league, so I was concerned about people that were in the title game. But outside of that, you know, it is what it is. But yeah,
it wasn't my dog avatar, but
yeah, we got
it wasn't mine.
Alex dog agrees with Rich. That's funny. Yeah, so hopefully they do something like that, man. You know, so they have to worry about doing a tie or stopping the game where it was, and you know, making it awkward when it comes to the seating. So yeah, I like the idea. Honestly.
I think we just don't play it and give KC number 1 seed.
Of course you would say that. Of course you would say that.
I do think that's probably the most fair approach. Yeah, logical and fair approach. But yeah, it'd be interesting because I mean, Chiefs still have a shot at number 1 seed, although if they lose to the Raiders, then it doesn't matter because it's not going to them. So it kind of would be a toss-up between Cincinnati and the Bills, and then I think you kind of have to play the game in that regard too. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that progresses.
Oh, boy.
From the RedTube comments.
Yeah. And it wasn't my chat, so it must have been Cap.
Yeah, it has to be Cap.
It was Cap.
He had open.
It was Cap. It was this.
We know.
See?
But yeah, so getting to the Raiders Chiefs game, you know, I know you guys all think that the Raiders are going to win, you know, which I don't agree with. Shocking, I'm sure, for all of you, but I do think it's going to be a close game. One, because it's an AFC West matchup. They always are. But two, you're going to have, similar to the Broncos coming out, kind of, you know, they are moved on from Carr. You saw it against San Fran. I mean, it's a different type of energy, kind of a different or added motivation, so to speak. Just kind of in switching things up. You just don't really know how to expect or how to anticipate they're going to play or kind of how the other team is going to come into the game. So, you know, with that being said, I do think it's going to be a close game. I kind of agree with Matt's comments in that I think it's going to be kind of a high scoring shootout. One, because Chiefs defense has been kind of more so Chiefs special teams, but they've been kind of putting themselves in really bad situations, which then in turn forces Mahomes to have to do stuff to score points to stay ahead. Because I mean, you take out a muffed punt and let's see, there's a block kick and a missed PAT. I mean, that Denver KC game is a little different on the scoreboard, but that's kind of been the story as this whole season's gone on. Is Mahomes has been good enough to keep KC relevant and winning it, you know, relevant to the end to win the game, whereas their defense and special teams haven't necessarily done much to help them win games. They've just sort of been there. So I hope going into this game, especially kind of playing Stidham, and maybe they kind of have that hangover from the success of going against the 49ers and think, we got to figure it out because look what we just did against San Fran, who's like the hottest team in the NFL right now. They're like Hansel, but so it's just going to depend on really how the Raiders come out. But I mean, in the grand scheme and kind of how every Chiefs game has gone, I see it being close till the end, and then you're going to see if KC's offense be able to do what they need to do to close it out, in the latter half of the fourth quarter. That's kind of where I see it going. I know Jacobs is playing. He's limited right now, but I think he's been limited like every week. But he's playing because he's going for a rushing title. There was someone else who's Stidham's limited right now with like an right elbow injury, so that's something to kind of monitor because what's gonna happen with that if he's somehow unavailable.
That's like a Bill Belichick thing, right? Which is like our starting quarterback is.
Well, and they didn't even practice. They didn't practice today. So McDaniels was like, "I'd give you this is our simulated, simulated injury report." So, like I said, I think Josh Jacobs has been limited or questionable every week. So, and he's like Cap said, more likely than not going to be the rushing leader this year in the contract year, which I think is awesome, especially as a fan of the Raiders opponent for how they handled that. But in terms of the Chiefs injuries, just to watch, like Snead got hurt in that Broncos game with a knee or a hip injury, at least from what people have said, not a serious injury. He didn't practice today. There's a few guys that didn't practice today. So it'd be kind of interesting to see as we get to closer to Saturday, where they're going to be at in terms of do we play everyone or do we try to just stay healthy to roll into the playoffs? I think you see him take a different approach if that Bills-Bengals game, played out in its entirety and we knew the outcome of that. Because I think you might see KC rest some people in this game.
You think so?
More people? I mean, I don't. It just depends because I'm pretty sure if Buffalo won that game, they were solidified number one no matter what.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So I think if you get to that point and Buffalo beats Cincinnati, I mean, if I'm KC and you have a Joe Tooney who's hurt his ankle and it re-aggravated it, I sit someone like that. I snit L'Jarius Sneed. I might even sit like Mahomes. I mean, I don't know. But I definitely am talking about it more than they probably are right now. And then the better news is they're getting healthy, at least in terms of offense. Hardman got activated off the IR in the 11th hour, which they had to do.
Yeah,
so
right.
You don't know if he's actually healthy or not because they had to do it today or he wouldn't have been able to come back. So that'll be something to monitor. But I mean, the biggest thing for me going into this game is to negate those, and I know I've said it before, but like when they won the Super Bowl in 2019, you didn't see them make these mistakes that they do in special teams or, bad penalties that, Nick Bolton had a turnover, given back to the Broncos off of a defensive holding. So, you especially at week 17 going into 18, you don't want to see that type of stuff at crucial moments of the game. And so to me, that's the biggest thing for this week is come out healthy and negate the shooting yourselves in the foot with, special teams and defense. And, I think that they're going to be looking good as they go into the playoffs. Yeah. DZ, it's because of the holder. If you ask Dustin Colquitt, so that's a whole subreddit thread there for you, and we call it a holder gate in the kingdom. Dustin Goldquit, the old Dustin Gold. That's what everyone call or something like that. But Dustin Goldquit, one of solid punter, was in the league forever. Was the holder I think for Bucker's first 3 years. And he came out with this thing about how Tommy Townsend is lazy with how he holds the ball and where he marks it versus where he places it. And then people pull up his stats, and Bucker was like 92% from all his kicks when Colquitt was the holder, and now he's like 70-something. So who knows? But old Holder gate. Yeah, I think I can't. That's someone's calling it that, but yeah, I mean, kickers, man, they're just a different breed. They got their own. They got their own world.
That they are.
Right. So I want to kind of get through to game with the Chargers versus Broncos. I think it'll be an interesting one, Coach, to be quite honest. I mean, obviously, all divisional games between us are always pretty. They're tight pretty much most of the time. Sometimes one team will get off to a lead, but there always seems to be a point where the other team kind of starts to creep back in at some point. And so I think the big wild card is can our interim head coach for the Broncos get our team fired up enough to show out what they can do? Because I think it's a fair comment to make where the Broncos defense is a shell of itself. They seem to have lost some of their oomph that they had in previous games. And they are kind of mailing it in. So the question is, will they bring it for a divisional rival with the Chargers, or are they going to continue to do what they've done in weeks past, which is play hard enough to not look awful, but really not look like they did for the majority of the season?
Well, I think that matter of fact, let me look this up while we're talking. But I'm sure because this game is in Mile High, that the weather's going to be a factor. So let's see here. We got actually 48 degrees, mostly cloudy. No rain, no nothing. Okay, that's not too bad for a high elevation game. So yeah, that I thought that we might get a really cold weather game, but it's not going to be too cold. 48 degrees.
48's balmy. That's t-shirt weather, my man.
Hey, so I mean, it was way better than -2 degrees wind chill. So, so I think that that not being a factor, I think that it should go like I think it's going to go in the sense where the Broncos will play as close, but I believe that it's just really based upon the mindset that the Broncos have and not have nothing to play for. Which for some it could go either way. You could be full of fancy free and just go out there and let it fly and see what happens, or you could literally be it is what it is. Just get us through this game so I can get to the off season. It's just a question of where the team mentally is at. But I do appreciate the fact that defense isn't shutting themselves, because they were a handful for us in SoFi earlier in this year. Came down to a field goal. So I think that if we were able to keep the same trend going in the last few weeks and keep working on that power run game and move the ball on the ground, that will yet again, like I said earlier, open up the pass game. So that will lean to the idea of us putting up points. And I think that with the way, based upon the way our defense is playing in the last few weeks and them not being very stingy in the air game, in the pass game, I think that will bode well for us if that trend continues. So, all in all, y'all haven't been a really high volume run team, so that doesn't too often concern me. So I think that if we can continue to shut down the pass game and get up by 7 to 10 points and make our pass only team, it'll play into our hands. So that's my hope, and that's my scouting report if I'm coaching, to tell them that these are the things we need to accomplish. We need to run the ball, stay on schedule, be ahead of the chains if ever possible, and score early and often. And if they get behind, they will become one-dimensional. That plays into our hands, and that's where our strength lies in our secondary.
Yeah, this is the main problem I actually have with the Broncos right now, and that's that our secondary has been a major strength for us for the majority of the season.
Oh, and my boy Justin Simmons had a pick last week too. Get that man his flowers. He had a pick last week.
Please.
I know you don't like him. That's why I got it. Every time he does something well, I got to bring it up.
Please. Look, my big thing is Simmons is great in a pass game. But the problem is, as a safety, you need to be well-rounded and also play the run game just as strong as the pass game. Otherwise, you are a one-dimensional player.
Yeah, I think the idea is going away when you're one-dimensional safety. You know, years past, you have a free safety was more of a cover guy. You had a strong safety that was good around the box and
now it's
just
just
to run.
yeah. Now you get Derwin. You get a Derwin and a Buddha.
Exactly. There you go. Exactly. Great examples, Alex.
Yeah.
Great examples. So yeah, you have to be more like
Or should I say Eric Berry? Sorry.
Oh yeah, well, I actually respect Eric Berry. Eric Berry was a baller.
I
Man.
know.
I
yeah.
wish he just was not injury prone as he was at the end of CE's career, but I like.
So where I was going with that is that we have Evero, who plays a Fangio-esque system, or at least similar to Fangio, not identical but similar. At least you know he draws on what
he was on the staff, right? He was on the staff, wasn't he?
He was, yeah, he was. Okay. But ultimately, Fangio has a certain system, and Fangio's system is one of the first, really, at the NFL level that didn't distinguish between free and strong. He said no, both.
Mm-hmm.
And his concept has now started to rule the NFL, and that's why you're seeing the. I'm sorry, there's a difference between the two guys, and having a legitimate question, not sitting there saying, "Well, of course there is." And in my opinion, that is where Justin Simmons has struggled this year. And that is, sure, he's got plenty of tackles. Like, I'm not going to sit there and say he's not tackling at all. But
yeah, but they're like the last line of defense, so you would hope
they. Exactly.
Safeties are always going to have a lot of tackles.
So,
it's like never a good.
Yeah. So
DB is the leading team with tackles. That's never a good sign.
No, and it's, so then the other question is like, okay, well, then the other stats actually matter more at that point. So that is, okay, well, how many yards after contact did they get on you? So if you hit them at say the line of scrimmage and then they dragged you for 5 yards, but you got the tackle.
Yeah. Is that good?
Coach, I did my job.
You get a golf clap from me because the dude still basically dragged you for half the distance he needed to get this first down on the first. On the first down, he got half the distance he needed to get another first down. So like it's absolutely useless, right? And so I think that there's certain stats and certain things and certain elements that are super important from a safety in today's NFL that I think that Justin Simmons has traditionally, not always, but traditionally struggled in. And he's had certain games where, when I was on another podcast on MHRT Network called Broncos Talk, I brought up a couple of Justin Simmons games where he was atop my Mile High Mountain. He had games where he was on fire when it came to run game stopping, and he killed it. And I'm like, where's that guy been all year? Because that's what the Broncos really need from a safety and a guy at that spot. And that is stopping dudes dead when they try to get forward momentum. And you need that type of play for the last line of defense. You need that type of play for a guy that is there to try to bolster your linebacking core when it comes to those first initial hits. Because ideally, and Coach, you can kind of, step in on this. Your first line of tackling is ultimately your defensive line where you hope they can get out blocks.
Well,
hold on. I'm getting there. I know what you're going to say, so just hear me out.
Okay.
Ultimately, though, your more realistic first line of defense is your linebacking core.
Right.
And just I know where you're going with it. I understand. Like I get this. So I mean, ideally, the best case scenario is your D line is that first line of defense because they're able to shed the tackles and stop the dude. Realistically speaking, your first line of defense in the run game is your linebackers. And I actually think that the Denver Broncos linebacking core, and just for the record, this guy here was the one that said Singleton was going to be a tackling machine this year. And Singleton has been a tackling machine this year. He's been outstanding as a fill-in inside linebacker for the Broncos, especially given the fact that so many people wrote him off to say he's a scrub and was basically ejected from the Eagles. I knew from seeing his tape that he was going to fit the Broncos defense. and I'm happy to have been
He's
proven correct.
seventh in the league in tackles right now.
Oh wow. Okay.
He's been
152.
legit. No, he's been legit, and he's done a
more than
great
Bobby
job.
Wagner.
Yeah, he's done a great job. And so when you look at that kind of stuff, your linebackers are really your first line of defense, like realistically speaking, on a defense. And then what you're looking for from your safeties is to be the backup or the reinforcements to your linebacking core to ensure that the guy gets brought down properly. So the issue here is that if your safeties are not up there with the run game and stopping and doing their job, then you end up with 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 yards of carry on some of these runs. Maybe not average, but certainly on some of them. And that really kills your defense and your defensive momentum. And it also starts to erode away at your defensive, dare I say, confidence on the defensive line, on the defensive side, because then you feel that no matter what you do, you're still going to lose. Because the run game is all about will of one player versus another. And the will of the offensive line against the defensive line is then winning, because then your safeties and your linebackers are then also unable to do their job and prevent things. And no matter what you do as a defensive line, you are going to lose. And that's basically demoralizing for a defense. So, in my opinion, I think that's where Justin Simmons has kind of fallen a little bit short this year. We've seen a bunch of poor angles from tackling. We've seen some runs that kind of go his way that don't end up landing well for us as a team. And what kills me is I've seen him do better. And I've said this more than once, right, on this podcast, is I know he can be that good. But I keep on seeing these kind of subpar performances, which it's just so unfortunate, because I know he can do better. And so I just want to see him do better. And I don't think that's a bad thing to say aloud either, because I know he can. So that's just kind of my general take on him. In the pass game, though, I think it's undeniable. He's a ball hawk. He's got a real gift at reading the passer, and I think he does a great job in that element of his game. But I think to be a true, well-rounded safety in today's NFL and in Evero's scheme, you have to be able to both do similar to what he's doing in the pass game, but you certainly have to do much better than what he's doing in the run game.
Yeah, and I'm noticing quarterbacks are picking up on that as well now, because they know that you're known for just coverage, and you're at depth at 12 yards or more. They got a clue on you. Say, oh, I guarantee he's in coverage. Mm-hmm. I guarantee he's in coverage. He's in that middle third, or he's in that deep half, or that quarter. He's going to be in coverage. He's never coming up into the box. So that's a tell as well, because I think they were saying that about Von Bell and Jesse Bates. Yeah, how they're interchangeable. No.
Agreed. And then the other thing with Simmons is that when he is back like that and does need to eventually come back up into run coverage, the other problem that he's had traditionally in the last 3 seasons is when he's back that far, to what you're saying, Coach, where he's back that 10 yards and then says, oh, crap, I need to go and stop the run from here. Mm-hmm. He traditionally takes the wrong angle. Mm-hmm. So as a running back, you know that can potentially land you, or as an offensive coordinator, you know that look can potentially land you a big run if you're able to block the right way. So your power run game, for example, well, if we do things the right way, it's pretty much done. Like, it's not going to happen. If we continue to do things the way we've done the last, we'll say 3 weeks, bad news bears.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm hoping we get to see some Chase Daniel. So, bring out the 2 guy, baby, with Roundtree.
He played last week,
and he had that sweet connection with Roundtree, little Mizzou guy. So
Mizzou Little Mizzou crime. I get it. Yeah. Well, I'm hoping for that too. I was telling DZ that I'm hoping that we get up in the game enough where we can slowly pull starters out. Because to his point earlier, that because the Ravens play earlier in the day, we're going to know where we sit at, regardless of what the outcome of the game is, and that's kind of good and bad.
It relies on Cincinnati winning, right?
So, Coach, I actually have a question for you.
Ravens it banks on the Ravens. If the Ravens lose, we're locked into the 5th seed regardless.
Yeah, Lamar's not playing, right?
No, he's not playing.
Yeah, man. Well, there you go. You're 5th seed.
His hangnail hasn't cleared.
Hangnail, wow.
I saw on ESPN today. They were saying they're like Lamar's making it. He's choosing not to play, to be like y'all burned me on the contract. So
we talked about that yesterday. We talked about it yesterday, and the fact that we feel like Lamar is proving, making a point that he's trying to say that you can't win a playoff game without me. So you might want to pony up the dough.
Yeah.
Well, at this point here, I think that's really Lamar's only card.
Yeah, I mean, play it, because you're trying to set yourself up for your future. You ain't worrying about right now.
Right. So, Coach, I have a question for you. So, the Denver Broncos have a enormous human being at the running back position by the name of Latavius Murray.
That's a big guy. Yeah,
he is a very large human. And I have to ask, how did you guys do against a guy like Derrick Henry, for example, or another larger running back? Because Murray has had a pretty solid season for us, being called in as late as he was to our team. I actually want him signed back for the Denver Broncos. But I'm asking you just from a practical perspective by saying, given what you've seen, given where you're at, and given the fact that we are really using Murray as a bit of a bell cow at this point.
Yeah.
Where do you think you guys are going to stand by being able to stop a guy of his size?
Well, ironically, we did pretty well against Derrick Henry for about 3 quarters.
Yeah.
So, and I think that because the game is close,
yards.
Right, the total, and that's good for us. That's good for a lot of people, So I think, especially when you're talking about Derrick Henry, I will say, you can't necessarily compare the Titans line versus the Broncos line because you guys have a lot of injuries on that front. But just stopping a back of that caliber, of that size, it has to be a committee, and that's the approach we took against Derrick Henry. We were engaged, we were in our run fits properly, and we made it so and that's always a rule I have against stopping running backs as the person. You got to stop before you get started. So if you can make him move laterally versus north and south, then you already won the battle. You just got to string him out, make a tackle. So, if you're not allowed for him to get into the line and get to the second level and have a free run ahead of steam, then you'll have great success. But if you allow for that, no matter how they run the ball, zone scheme or power, then if you allow for that, then he will have a day, most kind of like what Cam Akers did last week. So we need a performance like we did against the Titans versus against the Rams. So I think that's the most sticking point about this whole dynamic as far as keeping Murray under wraps. Because if they allowed Murray to run early, that goes back to my point about us having a two-dimensional offense, then it allows Russell to have the more open alleyways and lanes that he can throw the ball to his receivers. Because Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy are healthy, at this point. So he got two legit targets.
Well, and Judy's really started to come on a little bit.
He has. He's becoming that guy, and he's been really good after the catch too. So I definitely see that there being a problem if you allow him to get the ball. So we just have to make it, like I said, get up early, make it a one-dimensional game, and just allow for Bosa and Mac to go to work early, frustrate Russ, early on, and hopefully we can coast. But it's just a moment of having to take care of business early. The game is going to be cold in the first couple of quarters. Like how we defend you guys in the first and second quarter is going to kind of tell the game or how it's going to lean.
Right. And just to put things in perspective, Latavius Murray's listed weight and height is 6'3", 230 pounds. I question whether or not he might be both taller and heavier.
Oh, he's every bit of 6'3", if not taller. Yeah, I don't know about the weight.
For those of you who didn't see the fight between the Broncos offensive lineman and our backup quarterback, Latavius Murray was the dude that stepped in to push back on the offensive lineman.
Mm-hmm.
And there was almost no difference between the size of Dalton Reisner and Latavius Murray.
Yeah.
And that's insane.
Yeah. That's definitely
so,
a man that eats weights for a living.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's also like 38.
We still runs hard though. He still
Yeah,
runs
but
hard.
he's not
he's
Derrick
32.
Henry.
He's 32. But he's 6'3" and 230-ish
230.
pounds.
I remember that when he was with the Raiders. Remember he started his career with the Raiders. I remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
And
he was even faster
Let's see what
then.
his 40 time is.
It's surprising.
4'4".
Exactly.
4'3".
Exactly. I was going to surprise you.
Damn.
He's tall, big, and fast in his heyday. The
Oh,
Raiders,
that was at the combine.
yeah.
The guy is a freak, right? Like he's an athletic freak.
Alex, you would know this. I won quite a few Madden titles again with Latavius Murray as my running back. I traded for Latavius Murray one year in Madden, and I used him as my running back. I won like 3 Super Bowls. So yeah.
Yeah,
so video game running back, man.
He's got a size, speed, height combination that's almost a cheat code, right? Like he's unique, right?
Yep.
And he's just a monster of a dude. And so I think that it's really, really interesting how he's and again, DZ has kind of hit the nail on the head. This is exactly why he stuck around the league, is that he started at 4'4". So even if he slows down at 4'6", he's still basically now an average speed running back.
Normal speed running back.
The size of a bloody lineman.
There you go.
Yeah, he's the size of a lineman, which is just blows your mind just in terms of the size.
He's a linebacker playing running back.
Go to the combine.
He's a linebacker playing running back, basically. A 6'3", 200-pound running back. That's a linebacker.
Yeah, but at that size, he's got the momentum going for him, and then the linebacker is then at a disadvantage because they're not used to going against. Yeah. So
if you put up a blind resume and didn't put a position on it, and you say this guy's 6'3", 250 pounds, what his position is? You would say linebacker or edge rusher. Linebacker or edge rusher. What are the
linebacker, edge rusher, or a tweener at the end?
Yeah, tight end, like Alex said.
Yeah, like a tweener. Yeah. So again, that really kind of puts in perspective kind of what you're dealing with. The other guy that I do expect you're going to see a lot of again is Saubert, like we saw in the last game against the Chiefs. I think you're going to see some catches like that from Saubert. I think you're going to see some blocks.
It's questionable.
Yeah, I saw Albert O make an appearance last week.
Yeah.
No, but Albert O stepped up again. He kind of got himself out of the doghouse once Nathaniel Hackett was shown the door. And Albert O was always meant to be that guy with the Broncos this year. So it's nice to see that he still can do what we thought he could have done. Ultimately, if you're going to be honest, really where the three-headed tight end monster would have been for the Broncos this season, in my opinion, would have been a healthy dose of Eric Saubert, Albert O, and Dulcich when she got healthy.
Yeah. And Andrew Beckett had a catch last week too, didn't he? He's a fullback tight end combo.
Beck has always been that wonky hybrid guy that kind of seems to step up every so often, and you're like, wow, he's not bad. But the thing is, he's just never been a wow guy. And every team needs that guy that just does the dirty stuff. And Andrew Beck comes from a military background. He comes from that kind of like mental mindset of just do the thing. And so I think it's really important that that the Broncos keep someone like that on their roster, especially since we got rid of the guy that was, in that role originally, which was Andy Janovich, which was one of our fullbacks. And for those of you who don't know who that
Cornhusker.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know who Andy Janovich is, when he was on the Broncos, he may or may not have set a record for the most amount of helmets that he went through in a season.
Yikes.
Wasn't like his first carry a touchdown or something too? Like, yeah.
So in practice, I think there was one practice where he went through 4 different helmets because he broke them.
Wow.
Yeah, he's definitely got some CT.
Yes. Yeah.
Something ain't right up there. That's all I can say. Something ain't right.
Yeah. So he's a unique individual. He's at the fullback position, and if you see him, he's literally just built like a brick house. He's just massive.
Mhm.
I think he's like 6'2" and like 240 pounds.
Peace. Yep.
So, anyways, when we look at the game here coming up, Coach, I ultimately think that the Broncos will probably fall short. I think that you have some wide receiver talent on your team that will ultimately overcome a Broncos defense that just no longer feels the need to play up to their standards. And now, if we're going to be honest, though, if I'm saying, hey, if the Broncos, like we're say in your position, I think we would probably win. But I think that you have too many guys that are in key positions that are still healthy on the Broncos defense. They're going to attempt to fake it, but not make it.
Good one.
And I hope that general, analogy rang true for all of our viewers here today in terms of how I try to word that. And just to kind of elaborate, I think you have a bunch of guys that have already earned their money for the season that will literally say, I will make it look like I am trying really hard, but actually not, so that I don't get hurt.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
And
kind of
then
what I was getting at with the Raiders, too. Like,
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, week 18, you're out of it. You don't got to put something on film to come back. Like, we're on a golf course.
Right.
Right. And that's kind of what I'm thinking for some of the Broncos defenders. I also think you have a few guys that are battling injuries that are going to want to not go all out to hurt themselves more because they're going to want to recover in the offseason so that they can come back and show I deserve the money I was paid. So I just think that I think Randy Gregory's one of them. I think that you have DJ Jones that'll be one of them. I think Justin Simmons will be one of them. I think you're just gonna have a few guys that are saying, "Look, we were so bad this season. It's time to move on."
And just nail it in, huh?
Yeah. No, I think they're not going to make themselves awful. I think they have a standard that they're going to say, no, like I'm not going to let myself get burned and look like a fool. But I think that when you ultimately don't play full out, and I know this from playing on the rugby pitch, is you're going to get burned one or two plays because you're trying to fake something. And it will be very telling to see key guys, DJ Jones, Justin Simmons, Randy Gregory, Jonathan Cooper, and a couple of the other guys. It'll be very telling to see them getting just burned to the ground on certain plays. And I think that'll be really the telltale sign where they were trying to not look awful, but they failed. And it fell short. And that'll be the type of plays you'll see happen. So, for example, if Justin Simmons is in the run game and says, I'm going to try to stop the run, but I don't want to break a leg or tear an ACL or something. He might take like a bad angle, knowing that that's probably best for his body. I'm not even saying that's an awful thing because it's better to keep a top tier player healthy, but it's not going to help us to actually look good in the game either. Right. So, you might see a 6-yard run turn into a 9-yard run. You might see Mike Williams or Allen break off a much larger yards after catch because maybe one of the younger guys is saying, well, I don't want to get hurt either. And I'm taking my cues from the veteran, like Damari Mathis, for example, who, by the way, I think is playing lights out for the Broncos as a rookie. I think he's got a very bright future with our team.
Yeah, he's questionable for the game, but I think he'll play it. I think he'll redeem himself in regards to that game he had last time. All those pass interference calls he had.
Yeah, he had a bunch of pass interference calls, but then had an interception in like the next play.
Yeah. Got to have a short memory.
So he's got a super short memory and proven that he can do it, right? So I think a guy like that as a rookie is exactly who you want. He's a late round rookie, but basically he's playing like he deserves a starting role. And if you can get a starting cornerback at the NFL in the 6th round or 5th round,
playing like that,
yes, please, I'll take 2.
Yeah,
like
nice, yes,
like. Let's just be honest. Like, let's put it this way: the Raiders would kill for two dudes like that, right? No, let's be honest. Their season would look differently if they had a better secondary, right?
Well, I think it's more to it than that. But I mean, I like Nate Hobbs and Rock Yassin, honestly. Their safeties with Trevor is fine, but they need
you got
another
rid of Abram, right? Like they jumped him.
Right. I got do the Harmon and Trevor. I always can't pronounce his last name.
Mooring
or something, right?
Mooring. Yeah, Mooring. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, on paper they look pretty decent. I don't know. I mean, is it the coach or the scheme or is it the players? I don't know.
It's Derek Carr.
Yeah, exactly. On defense, it's Derek Carr. Right?
Carr.
Yeah. But anyways, guys, that's kind of where I think the game is. Coach, I believe you probably agree with me.
Oh yeah. I do.
We're probably going to land.
Only thing that concerns me is the issue of us knowing our fate before the game, and that kind of will make us have a different mindset. But I just want to go in and take care of business. I want to keep working on and keep building on what success we've had, and that'll take us right into the wild card week. That's what I want for the team.
If the Ravens lose before the kickoff, you think they're sitting like Herbert, Eckler? Or at least playing a half.
I think playing a half would be more like it. I think they'll play a half. You want to keep that rhythm going. We had a really good offensive week last week. You want to build on that. So I think they'll play at least a half, and then they'll say.
I'm sitting Allen. I'm sitting Williams.
Do you know what the other problem with that? I would sit Allen because he's just prone to getting hurt anyway. But the problem is that the problem that you have with that approach is that most teams that sit players end up not playing well the week after.
Yeah.
For the whole if they play part, I think it's a little less than
the reason I said out those three though is Allen and Williams have been out for a greater part of this year.
Right.
You can't afford to go into the playoffs without one or both of them.
I would say both.
And then Eckler, who's really started to come around, has had a pretty significant history of getting injured. And so to me, it's just, which I get what you're saying, because I don't necessarily agree with it, because I think you kind of kill your momentum when you rest your whole team because you're already in. But at the same time, like, do you want Eckler to tweak his hamstring, and then he's playing in the divisional wild card round at 70%, or do you want Allen to re-aggravate whatever he's been hamstring? I think what he's been dealing with, or I mean, if I'm the Chargers, if that has to happen, I'd rather that happen in the playoffs, in a game.
Right, exactly.
So. That's just my thought with it, but
yeah, I would say a half at the most, especially if you know your fate already. If you know your fate already and it's already locked in, a half at the most. Get him a sweat, get him some touches, and then go ahead and take the helmet away from him, and let's just go ahead and be a spectator for the rest of the game.
Because and to that point too, ironically enough, the Chiefs in Mahomes' first start, they already had locked up the number one seed in playoffs and sat all their starters and still made it to the. Well, I guess it didn't make it to the championship, the divisional round. Yeah. But I mean, I have the same reservations as you do with it, though, Richie, and then I think it kind of can really kill the vibe and
you have too many examples of too many teams trying to play cute like that and falling flat on their face that you just don't do it.
Yeah.
Oh, Dave, that's fantastic, my man. That's fantastic. Dave Glassman, a huge fan and a longtime supporter of the MHRT network. I just want to thank Dave for joining us.
You got to take him to Arrowhead, Dave, if you want him to have a good football experience.
God, here we go.
That would only be if there's a Broncos win at the end of that particular visit.
Well, not necessarily. You could have some barbecue and would probably be just as excited.
Oh, geez.
No. The barbecue is not quite as good in KC as it is in Texas. We'll just leave it there. Yes.
Coming from the Canadian.
The Canadian just jumped off the top rope.
I just got RKO'd on barbecue.
Canadian. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for the show today. I just want to thank everyone for joining us here on the Wild Wild West podcast. Thank you, DZ. I'm glad I have someone who agrees with me.
DZ.
So I just wanted to thank all of you for joining us today for the show. This is going to wrap it up as we move in past this week here. Obviously, 2 of our teams from the AFC West, including my Denver Broncos, drop out of the playoff contention, and the 2 gentlemen here.
Hey, Coach, your team dropping out or no?
Here.
Is your team dropping out or no?
Not my team.
Oh, neither's mine. That's pretty sweet.
No.
Okay.
So we got 2 teams that are sticking in, and that'll be the Chargers and the Chiefs. I just wanted to thank all of you for joining us. We're going to start getting into the AFC West playoff implications next week. So Captain and I will be digging into more details with regards to the Chargers and the Chiefs, more so than we have obviously this season. And obviously, as Davis hinted at,
Yes,
I agree.
Absolutely, yes.
I agree. I wish that young man all the best, all the strength, and I hope he pulls through in short order. Obviously, with his foundation and also just his health in general, I hope he comes and pulls through quickly. That will do us for the show today, and we will see you next week where the West Side is the best side. Peace!